Hello, good evening, good afternoon, from wherever you are. We thank you for joining us here on Uganda Crossroads. My name is David Lubuurwa. And again, welcome you back from that long week that has been full of interesting stories from some political parties or movements, organizations in Uganda. And of course, in the realm of sports, we have had also big stories developing. Based on our Uganda Cranes team, we have, scandals that happened last week. I'm sure these guys are going to be in position to discuss and tell us more about what's going on. And also, we understand that the judges in Uganda, the judicial system, is a little bit, again, coming to the circus of being complicated as compared to how we used to know it. Now, those are the stories that we're going to be discussing on today, from people power to NRM, from NRM to DP, from DP to FDC, and to the economic sector of the country. We want to welcome you again on Uganda Crossroads. We always discuss issues that matter to our political system in Uganda. The main focus is, where do we see change? And you joining us is really amazing. So I want to thank you so much. Guys, I want to thank you, Richard. Thank you for joining us again. Sarah Joy, thank you for coming back. You guys are always here, and I thank you because you do take time to do research before you come to share with the public. But let me say this, before you guys introduce yourselves. This week was full of drama, especially with Uganda Cranes, something that was really interesting. But I want to start with that, maybe sometime to come, but we have something else to start with. I want to start with Richard. Was your week as good? Was it good like how mine was?
Yes, my week was good. Viewers, we are happy to be here in the studio to analyze issues, and we see that we go forward. But generally, my week was good, and I'm in good mood today.
All right. Sarah, any interesting story that you had this week? It was full of drama, but your side.
My week was amazing. And good afternoon to Ugandans in the east and west coast. Good evening to Ugandans watching us from the other parts of the world, Africa, Dubai. We usually have so many people, catching up and watching us from different parts of the world. So good evening to everyone. Good afternoon to everyone. And we're here to discuss issues, break down what's been happening in Uganda, and we see the way forward.
All right. Thank you so much. Now, to the viewers, at times I always want to start with some of the small but very interesting and very touching regarding with people power. At times we want to start with NRM or other political parties, but we also have to look into how the things are going. Right now, this entire week, we've been getting stories about malls, people being paid to act like they support people power. Then we have had people being poisoned or even poisoning themselves just to, deceive the world that they're part of people power. But Sarah, I want to start with you. This week, actually, I think my producers allowed me to use my phone today. So I want to start with what you posted. That's where I'm going to base my argument. You said, and I quote, if everyone was paid, also, and so is a mall. So who is not? I think we are losing focus instead of discussing real issues affecting real people and how to solve these issues and pave sustainable ways for change. We are spending most of our precious time fighting and labeling each other. Let's get back to why we need change. Less minds discuss people. Smart minds discuss issues. So I want to start with you. What caused that? Was it because of Bajo's case or Kazwe Bashir Bazira's case?
No, I think what has been happening in the previous week, and so we've had so many, I'm hearing different camps, and that is within people power, bickering, throwing accusations to each other. Some are calling each other malls, some are calling each other, one has been paid, this has been paid. And I don't think that does not further the cause we are on right now. We want change, and we're, whatever we are focusing on is diversionary, and it's taking away us from the cause. And the two interesting, why I put up that post, the two interesting issues that came up in different camps, power camps I heard of, was Bajo is in prison after the he did a video that went viral where he was talking about President Museveni and was talking about his tyranny and how, they are devising ways and means to see that they take over power from him before 2021. I think that's everyone's, that's not Dr. Besigye has said, so many people have said it's that. And it's not news. Every Ugandan, wherever they go, they want to see change. Bajo was arrested and put behind bars. But Bajo has been so vocal, and he has been adding his voice and, you know, always present on ground. Whether you saw him in university campaigns, he's been deeply involved in campaigns. You saw him, he's been involved in charity work, involved in doing ABC and D. He's on ground. Being on ground in Uganda, it's tough. So, but mostly the people I saw attacking Bajo were mainly the advocates who are living abroad. And I'm wondering, my issue is, you know, we should not look at it lightly and think the people back home. For there are so many people back home who want to talk, but they cannot. And to have the likes of Bajo bold enough to come up and, you know what, express themselves and say, you know what, I'm adding my voice to the cause, we should give them some respect. So it is really, 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 really very unfair to have when Bajo is still languishing in prison and being denied bail twice, it is really unfair to have his fellow, you know, activists, you know, nailing him, putting him on the cross, and you know, telling whoever and saying that he was paid. It is completely not fair and I'm very sure when Bajo comes out of prison, he's going to be very demotivated, because it is not really right. But I think we are specializing more in pulling down each other and demotivating ourselves and demotivating each other, because just imagine what is going to happen when he comes out. He's going to come out a very, you know, demotivated man out of prison, because, you know, your fellow members, the people you're on ground, and the people who are not even on ground are choosing you of having been paid. So I think before we start our propaganda, before we start our labeling, let's get the facts right before we start you know, labeling each other. The other incident I was listening to that has been going on social media, we saw Bashiru Kaziwe ending up in Nairobi hospital, and it was confirmed he was poisoned. I was shocked to see the fellow people power activists choosing Kaziwe of poisoning himself and putting himself in hospital because he was already paid. That Museveni gave him money. So what I do not understand, you know, it would be very nice for whoever is throwing out these accusations to come out with evidence. But unless you have evidence, it remains speculations, it remains hearsays, but it is very demotivating. And what is killing the whole thing, the people who are spreading mostly these rumors are the people power activists who live abroad. They are not at home. The people who are at home who are ready and willing to stand up and talk, let's give them credit. Uganda is not the very safe place for you to say whatever you want to say when you're home. When you're abroad, you can abuse Museveni the way you want. He's not going to find you today or tomorrow. But when you're back home, it is very tough. Those guys are operating in a very tough environment where anyone can be, you know, anything can happen to someone. I remember 2 months back when Ash Bakato was abducted, you know, fellow people power activists were saying he kidnapped himself. You know, the fellow people activists were saying he kidnapped himself. And it demotivates people, really, because, you know, okay, I kidnapped myself for what? Oh, I kidnapped himself. I had stories, he was given 75 million. And, you know, and in fact, I called him and I said, you know what, I'm told you received 75 million. He'll be like, sorry, if I received 25 million, really? And because definitely I was just throwing it at him just in a joking way. But it is very demotivating. And for me, this word is going to go out to the people power activists living abroad. Let's not demotivate the people living home. They're adding a voice they're operating in the battlefield in a very tough environment. So let us stop labeling them. And it has come to the extent, even the other time I put up a post and asked, it has come, the way we are playing the politics today, the politics has turned into, I cannot have coffee with Nseleko. If people tomorrow found me having a cup of coffee with Nseleko, I have been paid. That's the politics of Uganda we are playing right now. Right. The politics of Uganda, I cannot sit down with the person who is in NRM. I cannot put on yellow. If I put on yellow, however much I love yellow, if I put on yellow, then I'm going to get all kinds of insults.
All right, so
if I sit down, so let me finish up this. So if how are we going to get people on the other side? People who are not yet believing in the cause we are on right now. People who still have doubts about people power, people who still have doubts about the movement. How are we going to get them to our side, yet we are shunning them away? We are shunning them away if they find me seated down maybe with maybe in Sereko discussing issues, wanting to hear exactly what is his argument, wanting to hear why isn't he on my side. You know, because I need to understand him on a better angle, away from the noise and everything. You're gonna be labeled. Right. I saw in Sereko, I think met people. I think one time in Sereko had maybe lunch or something with Full Figure, Jennifer Full Figure, and Badjo. Immediately they were paid. Nsereko got money from NRM and gave these people. But you see, Nsereko has been independent and has been the opposition for. He was NRM, but he went independent and he has been standing with the opposition for a long time. You have the likes of Dr. Besigye and all the rest who have been on the opposition for a long time. I think where we are losing focus, instead of really digesting and putting down issues for Ugandans to understand, those who are not yet convinced that they need change, to understand why they need change, we are fighting each other, yet we are all fighting for the same thing. Right. We want Museveni to go, but we are fighting even those who want Museveni to go. Just, I think because it's the easier way, it's the most petty way to have your day go by, but it is not helping. And if we don't sort out this by now, I'm telling you, 2021 is going to be hard to beat Museveni, because we would have spent a lot of time failing to digest and allow Ugandans to understand why we need change. Right now, as I speak to you, since morning, there's been a fight on social media between activists, people power activists, and one is on live the other side, one is on live on the other side, and they're arguing about Goloba. Goloba was buried last week. One is accusing the other in having an hand in killing Goloba. Or why don't you release the post-mortem? Why don't you let Goloba rest in internal peace? Goloba, what we know, Goloba got an accident. Whether you argue, whether you get the post-mortem, whether you get all this and that, Goloba is not coming back. Why can't we move forward? We are spending precious time, weeks and weeks, discussing things that are not bettering Ugandans. Right. Whether Goloba was killed or he wasn't killed, Goloba at one point in time, he would have died. So let us continue and move on from all that, because, you know, Bobby Wine's driver was killed at some point in time. Are we still on that? Chirumira, who was very vocal, was killed. Are we still on that? I think we need to do better and move on and discuss issues.
All right, so let me remind the viewers that the reason why we're talking about Badjo and Kaziwe Bashir Mbazira happens to be the president of the Uganda Journalists Association. So that is a very big body for all journalists in Uganda. We are not part of that because we are in the United States, but he heads a very big organization. And Badjo is a promoter in music. So this is all about politics and how the entertainment or even the economy is running. But let me come to Richard. Richard, do you really think this makes sense for people like you guys who support people power, when you see you bickering against each other and we don't see any change at all?
You see, in politics or in activism, there are people who are just jumping on board. There are people who just talk without analyzing issues. If you look at this man, Badjo, and you see the cases, even his lawyer in court, even the frustration, even getting bail alone, you cannot say that he ate some money. The way they are treating him with cases of prison is a big thing in Uganda. You cannot risk your life. For us, we are out in the diaspora. Yeah. We are not in the ground. But if someone, you get someone, the way he spoke, the way determined he is, and the way frustrated he was, the way he mentioned his comment, these issues were supposed to be of great damage to the president of Uganda and the government. But if he comes out in support of the people power movement and someone labels him as a traitor or someone who has eaten money, I think he is the one to question why he's saying so, because he's the one weakening. Because this man has given, he has money, he has everything he needs, he has put his life to safety, risking treason, imprisonment for many years, like they have done to Nyanzi. I don't think you can, at the end of the day, label this man
a moron.
So the second thing with people who don't know, even if Badjo is out of the struggle, even Bashir is out of the struggle, if you look at the background of people power, right before Napoleon Bonaparte in France, it is a movement where people have to come, even they are already hurt. It's a movement where people come up to join forces to get rid of people who are tormenting them, exploiting them, imprisoning them, taking out everything that they must possess. Everyone in Uganda is awake. However silent some of the people you are seeing as silent. This is a movement that has attracted every person on every corner that who wants a better Uganda. This movement of people power, if you look at its background, will not stop, will go forward. The government in power will be overthrown, either through an election that is illegitimate or legitimate. If they fail, they take power by themselves. So, however much they label one person as a moral, however frustration he will be, even if he gets out of the struggle, other people will join and the struggle will continue until Uganda is free.
All right, thank you. So, Sarah, last week, Bajo was supposed to be in the courts of law, and he went there, and the judge missed the session. Does that create any way of understanding, is the judicial system in the country still active, or it's just a play of politics?
The judicial system is playing at the tips, and the judicial system is in the hands of President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. He decides who gets bail, he decides who stays in prison. Because also the magistrates, the way they behave, they don't behave like professionals. Because, and I was even shocked that Zake was acquitted so fast. I think the magistrate on his case just got frustrated and tired of seeing this man in court over cases that were really, they were not coordinating, and there was no issue why he was being taken or charged with treason. That's why maybe Zake was acquitted. But for the issue of Zake, of Bajo, the first time he appeared in court, when they were going to submit his bail application, they needed an interpreter, Luganda interpreter, because I think he submitted that he didn't understand English very well. They failed to get a Luganda interpreter around Kampala, to interpret for him. And the magistrate not appearing. It's the same thing that has been happening to Nyanzi, because President Museveni doesn't want to be challenged in such a manner. Because you look at Nyanzi, her case has been dragging on. She's going to make almost a full year in prison. And Bajo's, you see the magistrates, the way they are playing games, they don't want to appear, they are excusing themselves. Nyanzi, Bajo is going to stay in there for quite some time. He's not coming out anytime soon. And that's why I do not want people who should be encouraging, who should be rallying behind him, to start bashing him. Yes, the statements he made them in Uganda. Maybe if I was around him before he made that statement, or maybe if I was down on camera when he recorded that video, I would have told him, Bajo, we are not posting this. But at the same time, we need some Ugandans who are really, really resilient and tired, who want to see, because there are not so many Ugandans who are firm and can, say such things. Very few Ugandans can really, really, utter such statements. Because, and definitely, I do not know. I think at some point, Bajo knew that it's going to cause him trouble. Because, here you're threatening the seat of the president, and Museveni is already threatened by so many things. So Bajo, definitely, I don't know whether he was aware, but the statement, in fact, when I saw him after, maybe a week after the statement, I'm like, they are taking long, but I knew they were going to catch up with him. The video went so viral. It had over so many views on social media. So I think all of us who are lovers of change, the statements Bajo made are the statements we want to say but cannot air out. If you put Ugandans back home, if you listen to Ugandans back home, either to their minds or to their hearts, and see what they want to say, they want to say the same thing Bajo said to President Museveni, but they don't have the guts to say it. So if Bajo stood out and said all of us what we want to say, and then when he is in a time right now when he needs us to stand with him, and we are bashing him, and we are putting him down, we are calling him a mole, we are spreading propaganda, I think, we may think people are in prison, they don't see all this, but they have friends who can visit them. Because they keep asking, what is happening out there? And they say, oh my dear, people are not, fighting for you, people are bashing you, people say Museveni give you money. It is really demotivating. If you see Bajo coming out of prison and he's not interested in furthering activism, or he goes back to his own business, don't be surprised. But let this stop, because and it should stop for every activist who lives out of Uganda. Because don't think, because you can say whatever you want where you are, don't think what you're going through is what the people back home are going through. They are living on tension. Uganda is not safe. They can be killed anytime. They can be kidnapped anytime. If normal Ugandans who are not even involved in politics are being killed, and you see on CCTV cameras, a Boda rider was killed, another was killed. Today morning I saw in is it Kamukamu, there's a phone grabber who was killed today. So yeah. I think for the people who raise their voices in this way, let's give them some respect and let's fight for them.
Let's go deep into the killings that are going on in Uganda. Previously, there were no videos being displayed like the way it is today because of the improvements, probably private security, people putting up cameras just to monitor their businesses or their homes or their families. Now, in just 1 week, we've seen like 3 videos circulating. The only unlucky part of the story is that none of the suspect has been brought forward before the media, because the killings are before the media, but none of the suspects has been brought before the media for police to tell us. Richard, I want to start with you before I go to Sarah. Is this a failure of the government of Uganda to respect the people who are bringing out these videos, or it's just business as usual? You die and life goes on? No,
let's first see why the cameras were put there. His Excellency, the President of Uganda, spent 400 billion to put up camera around Kampala. And this is when he went around and says, look, I'm going to catch the criminals. What criminals was he talking about? Was he talking about the political criminals or the petty thieves and killers of the people of the country? Because there are 2 issues. For me, on my view, the purpose of putting up the cameras that we are boosting for the country was for himself and his people, because Kampala is the heart of seat of the government. In case the opposition want to take over government or the people power want to take over government, the cameras will be used to locate the enemies of the government. Because if you are putting them in good faith, that you have put cameras in Ruwaga, you have put cameras all around Kampala, the thieves and those that are killing people would have been arrested within a few hours. I'll give you an example of Great Britain, where there are cameras and facial recognition systems. Within an hour, you have been approved because the camera will trace you to the next location and the contour right you're in. I'll give you an example of Brookline here in Massachusetts, Brookline. There are cameras in every spot. You cannot commit a crime because their cameras are not there for the safety of the government of Brookline, but it's there for the safety of the people of Brookline. So the failure of government to approve people when people are seeing them, where are the cameras themselves of the government that has put in place? Where is Google? Because you can trace exactly the location of people. So the motive of putting cameras was for the government to stay in power and control the population. That's why they are failing to arrest the people. And that's what people power is going to do. Yes, cameras are good to stop crime. But the crime for who? For the people or against the people? That's what people power is going to focus on. All this that you're seeing is a failure of government to implement the policies that are good to the people. Because there's crime because of unemployment that has been caused by the long delays of government not implementing a good economic policy for the country. So, this is what people power is going to collect when they get to power. They will get to power and they'll collect these things.
Sarah?
You know why? Partly, I'm going to disagree with him partly. The intention of installing cameras in Kampala was right. But what they do not do is, you know, they talked about installing cameras after the death of, was it Chirumira or Kawesi? I think they rushed through the whole thing and did not install the entire system. Because if you're captured on camera, there must be face recognition. But are we having the technology to do face recognition in Uganda of anyone? And 2, are we having database of all people living in Uganda? Do we know them that if they run for face recognition, your information can come up? You cannot get that. You cannot get that. So I think they rushed to install cameras. I don't know who was in the deal to make that quick money. They did not they didn't sit back to understand what it entails if you get someone on camera, what other process do you need to be able to capture that person? Because definitely if you can get face recognition, then you get the information, get the face, run it in the database. Because, for example, when you mentioned about United States, your photo is in the system. If you're an illegal migrant, if you're here and you're a registered person, your face is in the system. The moment they have face recognition, they are going to put that face recognition in the system, and all your information is going to come out. Where you stay, how you came in, who are you. We do not have that in Uganda. So all what they did was to install cameras, but they did not come up with the entire package of how, if we install cameras, do we have software for face recognition? Do we have a database that has all information concerning Ugandans? Maybe if they were prepared, they would have used the information they had gotten from.
But let me ask you a question before you go on. Earlier when they were introducing national IDs, there was a political statement that was going all over that the government is going to take our information for its own selfish benefits. And today people advocate for national IDs because, of political change. Now, the same story that would be with government registering people, for example, having social security cards like we do here and all that. Do you think Ugandans are willing to accept such a new development so that their addresses, everything they do, their finances are monitored by the government?
No, but you see, even collecting, Ugandans having allowed to get Ndangamuntu. If government or if institutions in government really cared, they would have used all this information extracted plus the photos of the people. Different departments should have been able to share this information. Like statistics would have shared this information. Like police would have shared this information. If they really have systems that work, if Ministry for Information Technology would have shared this information. Because when you get all this information about people want to have Ndagamuntu, because right now if it's even more important than a passport. So people are willing to get them. So it is entirely up to government to devise to see that their different departments are really functional to be able to utilize this information and share it within different departments. Because, for example, if you had a Ndangamuntu and police had shared part of this information from you, which department? Is it NILA that is collecting information on behalf of for Ndangamuntu? If NILA shared information with the police, and if police had a full-fledged department that is good at IT, that collects all this information and puts in every information and can do face recognition, the pictures of the photos, at least the photos we had of the first two guys that murdered the border rider, we would have been able to pull those closer, do face recognition, run it within the system and see do they have Ndagamuntu. We would have started off there. But that's why I'm telling you, all they did was to install cameras, but they did go for the whole package, because you're going to install cameras everywhere, but if you don't have the entire system, face recognition, a department that can be able, are Ugandans in your system? Are you all information about Ugandans? Because the best way, if every Ugandan is supposed to have Ndagamuntu, that is enough information. Whatever you get from people, I have Ndagamuntu. I know the process I went through. I will know every information I filled in there on the form for me to be able to get my Ndagamuntu. Different departments should be able to share this information. But you're going to be shocked at some point in time. Someone is going to come up in parliament and say, oh, now we need face recognition. Billions of money are going to go. Yet we would have been able to hit two birds with one stone. Get the information from people, share it. The information these telephone companies get from us. Because I'll give an example. When in America, all my information, apart from, immigrations, USIS, EIS get information from you, but all my other information is the information I gave in at the driving license. They have my photo, they have the information, even whether it's police, whether it's which department, when they run, they're able to get every information about me, where I stay, which country I come from. You can imagine, just imagine the system, how it works. A police officer will just run your number plate. And by the time he comes to you, when he stops you, by the time he comes to you, he knows where you come from, he knows who you are, he knows every information about you by just running your number plate. By just running the map, he can tell whether you have, you're not supposed to be on the road. He can tell all that information. But we've totally failed to utilize all this information by using, one stone to hit so many birds. at the same time, because it would have been a very good, activity in Dagamontu, and then we spread all the information we get, we use it into other departments. We would have, saved a lot of taxpayers' money.
All right. So, Richard, you have anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, there's a case in Uganda I was looking at. Was it Clock Tower, where 2 people were arrested as soon as the cameras were put in place. 2 people were arrested in a place where they had grabbed phones, and they were paraded and were taken to CPS, and they showed the whole place that you see the cameras, what they have done. How were they traced and how were they caught? That's what I don't know. Because they boosted that, look what the cameras have done.
You see what happened with that incident? Yeah. Mm-hmm. The police, the first time the guy went away with the phone, the next time he came back to grab a phone. That's why he was arrested, because he did not know that he was on CCTV and they were looking for him. So he came back. So that means the only way they can be able to, to get someone who has been involved in crime is either the person comes back to commit crime again, or if they do it one-off and they don't come back, then they're able to go.
Let me tell you guys this, with the CCTV camera BS. I call it BS. I'm sorry, people may excuse my language. But here's the thing. I've been before in the police department, and I've seen how cameras monitor. Before even they introduced these new cameras and making noise about them, I've seen people snatching phones. Police officers seeing them. Nothing has been done. I've seen them several times. I know at the camera on Clock Tower, there is a camera on Garden City and all that. They see people doing all this kind of BS. Nothing happens. So my guess would be, and I don't know what you guys have to say, police has to do their job. It's not about the cameras. Cameras see these guys every single day. They even zoom them. But it only affects if I think somebody has money.
Yeah, but you see, again, one thing you're not going to take away, and we must accept, is that the Uganda police is totally demotivated. Look at how much they earn. They earn peanuts. And again, these thieves, some of the thieves are working for the policemen. The policemen are largely involved in the thefts happening in Kampala. Look at the robbing in Nansana that happened at, was that a supermarket or in Nansana?
Mobile money, I think, mobile money.
No, there's a cheap hardware something. There's a hardware, cheap hardware something in Nansana, where over 4 workers were gunned down. They were gunned down by army men, soldiers. Army people gun them. So there is a racket. There is the biggest racket of those manning thieves and all these pickpocketers are the police themselves and the guys in the army. So you have to be careful. As much as sometimes you run to the police, sometimes you run to the boss of these the rackets in Uganda, because these guys, when they capture these phone grabbers, they steal the phone, they take them to their boss, and then the boss finds a way of reselling them. Either they take them to Congo. So police largely is involved in the rackets of stealing in Kampala. Especially they have all those boys on the streets doing all the different things, even in the army. So as much as cameras were installed in Kampala, Ugandans do not it up. Because even the people who are supposed to, to protect us, safeguard us, as bad as those who attack us. Because some of them, some of the people who attack us, it's them. It's the police providing guns to the attackers. It is the police that is protecting these attackers. So some police officers are not as clean as you may think.
All right, Richard, does that confirm a story? Recently we wanted to run a story, but we stopped a little bit until further investigations. There is a story of people going to police and report their cases about stolen phones, laptops, and police officers say, you know what, pay us this money. And all of a sudden, the phone is brought back. They make just a call, talk to someone, and something, the phone is back. The laptop is back. Just making a call, hey, do you know this so and so and so? Okay, now everything is cleared, bring us that phone. The following day they call you, have your phone. Does that conclude to what Sarah's just said, that police is behind all these activities?
Yeah. Most cases, 99% of all the criminals that operate in Kampala alone are known by the police, because they are arrested each and every day. There was a case of this man who used to be working with this Kaihura team, who used to patrol the city with Kitata. Who was that? Sobi. Sobi will tell you exactly who did what in what area. And he was right, because he's born there, he has been involved in the crime and prevention in the city. So most of the criminals that every person must know his territory who was working in such an area, because the police have their data. And they come, and at the end of the day, they are paid, and they are let to go. So in case you came up with such an offer that you want your food, the police will just call. The only way that we are going to stop this, I've been advocating this for so many years, because my fight for freedom of Uganda is total federation, self-government. The police should get out of the hands of the big government and come into the state government and then small government of towns. This way, the protection of the people to the nearby town. For example, if the crime that was committed, the murder that we are looking at, the brutal murder, in 5 minutes in that town, the police would have been responsive because they are well paid, they are well aware of all the issues that are happening right there. But because the government controls the police, and the people that earn police are less paid, and they are there to benefit themselves. Kitu kidogo, how much money do I make out of this police? But if we transferred the police into the hands of the people, like the United States of America. There was a murder recently in downtown Boston here. A cab driver was murdered. 9 bullets. You know what happened? In 5 minutes, the police was right behind, closed everything. The man was caught red-handed. So the issue to stop all this thing, the police must go back to the respective places where it belongs, like America. The police of the people, not the police of the government.
All right. So
I'm going to add on something
Sure.
very small. If you followed up the operations of Chirumira, in fact, what got Chirumira into the biggest trouble was Chirumira was fighting these thieves, yet his fellow police officers he was working with were the ones manning these gangs. So every time he would bring guys in, the next day he would be out. They would be out. So he was really affecting the business of his fellow policemen and women, and he did not know. That's what got him in trouble. And you see, because he did a very good job in cleaning up Old Kampala. And just tell me, a police officer who is doing a good job cleaning up an area that has rampant crime, why do you transfer him and take him to the villages where, you know, in the villages really the crime rates would be really low because of the entire setting? They took him to the village. But again, even when he was taken out of police, remember the case they put against him, it wasn't a case that is sustainable because it was loose, it didn't hold water. But the information he had about his fellow funders who are involved in crime was too much. And these guys could not let him, you know, go off the hook. So they ended up murdering him.
Now, yeah, so does that justify what we are going through in Uganda today? President appointing military officers to man police. We've been asking questions recently about who is the real IGP of Uganda. Is it Okoth Ochola or Mzee Sabiti? Because what we're seeing today, everywhere where there is a major event, it's never Okoth Ochola, it's the IGP. Is it just a delegation of responsibilities that we have to keep Okoth Ochola in the sideways and allow Mzee Sabiti to run the system, or it's just the president thinking that now the army should take over? Sarah?
But you see Ochola, he's been so dormant. Sometimes I forget that he's even the IGP of Uganda. There is totally nothing that has come. You can imagine all these, at least when we had people like Kaihura, on such occasions where would be murders like that, they would have gone to the scene. At least they try to show they are really in charge. They would go to the place of crime and, you know, and pretend to be investigating. At least they pretended to be there working. But Ochola, all things that have been happening, all the murders around Kampala, he's never. And, you know, it looks really good when you have someone, you know, get out of there, let the people see them in the field and see, you know, they know you're really active. Ochola has never shown that. And, you know, but this is not the first time. You've seen Museveni moving and putting the army in police, and it started with that was Katumba Wamala. He brought in Katumba Wamala as an IGP from the army. You've seen so many. Kaihura.
But it appears to be when the army officers join police as the heads. In other words, you have seen, remember the days of Katumba Wamala, everybody was about Katumba Wamala. When Kaihura came in, everybody was about Kaihura. Now we see Ochola, who is a professional police officer, He's nowhere to be seen. And so I want to stop you from there. And
no, but let me finish up this before you run
sure.
to him. But you've seen, ever since Museveni started involving the army into the operations of police, you've seen just talk of any riot, just talk of any small thing happening in Uganda, small gathering. See how people are being manned. Because the police is meant to protect. If people are not being violent, if people are not doing anything crazy, you can allow them to assemble. The army, when it moves into situations, they are beating, they are shooting. That's what you see. So basically, I think Museveni is preparing for 2021, and he's preparing, he's making changes because he knows the people in police, they are not either trained enough, either to kill or to man big strikes or to man situations. Maybe so he's getting all these guys maybe who have been at war. Because at this point in time, I'm looking at Museveni, looking at Uganda. He's going to war in 2021. Him versus Ugandans. He's been in Uganda for 33 years. Ugandans, majority of them are disgruntled. They want to see change. So it is him against the 40 plus million who want to see him go down. So what do? Get all your tough guys, equip them with everything, give them orders. When they go out there and people are rioting, whether peaceful or not, let them shoot.
All right. Richard, yeah, I wanted to go on with you. Okoth Ochola, nowhere to be seen.
Look, if you look at the background of Okoth Ochola, the person who was supposed to come in the replacement of Kaihura was Kawesa. That's why he was killed, trying to take away the bread of the boss. So let's talk about this Okoth Ochola. He's a true gentle police officer, the way police is supposed to be handled. Kaihura was fighting for prestige to be shown around the cameras that he's doing something. Ochola is focusing on the discipline and the way the police should do its work. Look at the case. I was following a case recently of that one of the CID officers that was in jail. I don't know if you were seeing it this week. He was asking, who got you out? I think most of them have been put back into prison. But it's the real person who is supposed to be the head of the police. These other people that are brought in, as you have said, they are brought in case, because remember, police is an armed wing of the government of Uganda. Which side does it fall if the commanders fall out of Museveni? Yeah. Are these going to follow the orders of the people that are going to be massacred, like the army officers that are bringing in, or are they going to follow and protect their boss? That's why the army officers have been brought in. But at the end of the day, what will happen in Uganda is the people of Uganda will prevail at any circumstances. Those who will sacrifice themselves for a new Uganda will sacrifice. And the new Uganda will be born. And the new Uganda that is going to be born, we shall present these proposals to end this. Because remember, right from what my argument of the 10-point program, in the 10-point program, right from the Bush Museveni, is going to politicize the police. Remember, Obote had what they call special forces. They almost killed me many times, the special police. So, I'm telling you, this militarization of the police has not begun with only Museveni. Even there was an armed wing of a special police by Milton Obote. They used to wear these red things. Museveni's, I think they are wearing blue, the blue combat. Obote used to be with the red and brown something. So, the way to end this is to get politics out of the police of the country and put the police back into the hands of the people through federal states, like in America, where the police have control. The governor of the area has control of the police, okay? And the small towns have control, where me, as a person in that area, can participate into the policing of my area in truth and ways of justice. That's where all this that you're fearing about in Uganda will stop.
All right, so I want to thank you guys, and I want to thank the viewers who are watching us. We appreciate all the comments and the views that come in, and also we appreciate the weekly updates that we get from you guys through text and emails. What you're doing is very interesting and amazing, and we appreciate it again and again and again. But most importantly, if you look at the politics of Uganda, it's always changing. That doesn't mean that it will never stop to change. No, it means it will continue changing from day in, day out. But what matters is your involvement to make sure that you have a better Uganda. So that's why Uganda Crossroads stands every single Saturday to come here and discuss. So guys, we want to get back to, I want to finish up with the Ochola and Mzee Sabit, because technically what we have heard, what we have seen is that the army is taking control of everything, the agriculture sector, the infrastructure sector, and the police itself. And it appears to be actually the army performs more than we, the public.
How much have they performed in NAD?
You guys give me the answer, because that's what we see from reports. That
they haven't performed anything.
That the army is so much acting as compared to, we, the public people. We steal money, we do everything and all that.
What have they done in NAD? They haven't done anything in NAD that is sustainable to show greater improvement between what the previous systems used to do. And don't give it to the army or and you see what happens. What has the army done when it comes to handling Ugandans who are peaceful? The army have killed innocent Ugandans. They've brutally arrested people. They've, they haven't done, because, when you look at the structure and what the police is supposed to do, the police of Uganda has lost its values of what a police really stands for and what their mandate that is given to them by the Constitution. The army comes in, you see people are being killed every day, people are being brutally arrested. You saw people peacefully demonstrating the way they are manhandled. Recently, a woman who was pregnant during, I think, the Bobby Wine arrest situation, she lost her uterus. She came out of the hospital, but because for her to save the entire situation, they took out her uterus. But is Uganda government going to compensate this woman? Maybe she didn't have any child. Maybe this was the first child. She's been denied a chance to ever have a child again unless she does an adoption. So this is what happens. And just imagine, I'm looking at any democratic country. I'm just imagining a country like America, for the police to manhandle a woman and she loses her uterus. Oh my God. Do you know how much money they are going to compensate that woman? But in Uganda, you know what? This woman right now, she's out of hospital, but she needs counseling. She needs to get to terms with what happened. She was pregnant, she was brutalized, and on top of losing her baby, she lost her uterus. She cannot be pregnant again. So it is, and is that what you really want in police? People who do not even respect pregnant women. Who would brutalize a pregnant woman? You see her, I don't know what she had really done so bad that it required her being brutalized to an extent she has to lose her womanhood.
All right.
So it's a shame.
You talked about Bobby Wine, and so I want to get into actual.
No, there's something you left there.
Sure.
You see, you talked about the army being involved in everything. In socialism, if you look at Museveni very well, the way I've looked at him, he used what they call command, economic, in a command, they call it economic commands. And if you look at a country, for example, like Bermuda, they use a system which is called central planning for regions, because I'm giving an advice to people who are those that are advocating for the growth, the economic growth of the country. In Uganda, if you look at Bermuda very well, per capita income of the country, because I was looking at the country like so small as Bermuda, how can we get good working example to help in the economy of Uganda? Because the reason why Museveni is putting the army into everything is to say that his army, on his command, can do a better job of getting people out of poverty. Using a command economic structure, Mbaragi Demokorechino, do this Mvuba Encha, in a centralized economic planning that can lift. I'll give you an example of Arua. What do the people of Arua need to get out of poverty? If you are supposed to get, if you really care, and this I'm advising people power, the central planning using the government of Arua would help them very well in that area, because they have tobacco. The tobacco is being sold to people that are outside the country. So if you are supposed to get these people out of their poverty, you are supposed to plan how can the people of Arua plan and plant tobacco and sell to the international market where you get taxes, and then the big money will come out to their pocket. So this Museveni bring in the army everywhere, the police army, the army. It is bad economic policies that has driven Uganda to this stage where we are. And they advise the people power. When the time comes for such an opportunity, we should reverse. Because at the end of the day, and I was looking at, again, working example of Bermuda. Through trade, outsourcing and working together with this country. That's why I like Bobi Wine very much to be the next president of Uganda, because his friends are the Western side, the Americans. They would transfer their economic policies and factories for sub-manufacturing into Uganda, and we shall get out of this poverty that we are in. Whereas Museveni's way of doing things, Amajega Gambia, you kill people on the islands where they have been fishing, where every person has been going, where he has lost everything he has in life. The last thing he has to do is to go to the lake, to risk his life and fish. You go there, you kill them, that you're advising them the best way to fish? Give me a break.
All right, so give you a break. So we want to thank you for watching. And I want to come to you guys again. Last week you talked about Bobi Wine and DP. But I want to focus on Bobi Wine for now as people power. Bobi Wine got an award, and that was a very good move for the people power supporters and the other affiliates who believe that such awards can bring in more supporters, international supporters and local supporters. But most importantly, there was a lot of some controversy that was really actually going on between people power supporters and others who oppose people power, who say, no, this is not a legitimate award because of what they call the history of it. People believe that it's because of the LGBTI community supporting Bobi Wine, and that is against the culture. I had to bring that on top because I believe that you guys understand the value and the principle as to why this award, the humanitarian award for fighting human rights and the freedoms of not only Ugandans in Uganda but all across the world, is very important. So Sarah, I want to start with you because you followed that story so much.
I think at this point where we are in the 21st century, everyone has a right, whether I'm LGBT or not. I think we've surpassed, unless parts of Uganda people still live in the maybe 19th century, where we are the 21st century, where people have been given freedoms to be who they want to be, to express themselves any way they want. So it is whether you want to term human rights, because when you talk of human rights, you fight for human rights of everyone. Whether they are LGBT, whether they are lame, whether they are disadvantaged, whether they are unfortunate, you fight for human rights of everyone. You cannot say that Ugandans Ugandans back home, I'll only fight for this particular group of Ugandans back home wanting change, and this group will not fight for them. When people need change, no matter which sect they come from. Because if you start doing that, then in other words, I'll just give an example. Then we are going to, if we start looking at it in such a petty way, we are going to start looking at it in situation and say, oh, Bobi Wine is a Catholic, he's fighting for Catholics. Then who is fighting for the Muslims and Christians and born-agains? So I think we've surpassed that level of people thinking in a very shallow way that are all, because LGBT also were in the house, they have every right. In fact, the LGBT community runs, for example, LGBT runs the fashion industry in America. They run
specifically they run Hollywood.
They run the movie industry, the biggest money maker in America that has made America. The movie industry, the fashion industry is run by the LGBT. So in places that are advanced and developed like America, LGBT is not an issue that you talk about and people, and you make noise and people even listen to you. They have rights like any other person. Whether they believe in what you don't believe in, it doesn't matter. They believe in that. Because all of us have things we believe in, other people don't believe in. So, and we should not become dictators because I don't believe in what you believe in, then you're not part of me. So we should move past that. What we should focus on, and what I appreciate, is that he was recognized on a huge platform on American soil. If Americans can see that what Bobi Wine is doing back home, Uganda is far, far, far a third world country. He's among, when you look at the scale of the poorest countries in the world, Uganda is one of them. And Bobi Wine has been in this struggle for roughly a year or plus, just a year, maybe and a half. But there are so many people who have been in this struggle longer than him. So for him, it is an achievement that is being recognized. So many people are in the struggle in other countries, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania. But if for Bobi Wine, if the voice, if the free Bobi Wine, if the message, or if you went through, you was able to really run deep onto the international platform and he's being recognized for fighting for human rights, and on bigger platforms like in America, he's done a tremendous job, and he should just keep going. The rest of whoever does not feel the award suits him, whoever feels, oh, the LGBT community was also recognized in the same, in the same fora, it doesn't matter. That's outside noise, because the bigger cause is seeing, causing change in Uganda, seeing Ugandans live in a better life. And having, Uganda has lost so many manpower in terms of Ugandans who go out for greener pastures. People, whenever they finish up university with a degree, they can't find a job, they go out. So you remain with those, a few can be able to get jobs. And also look at the education sector right now. It's really going down. Look at the grades from the last academic year. Right. The grades are really going down. Look at how primary schools perform, secondary schools perform. The population that is still going to school are becoming demotivated. Right. And parents are losing hope. If your 2, 5, 6, 7 sisters are back home seated and your brothers are jobless, why should they struggle to look for school fees for you when you're going to end up like the rest? So at this point in time, our focus is changed. Whoever says, oh, we live in an open world, let people believe in what they believe in, so long as it's not affecting us in one way or another, and so long as our focus in Uganda is not what other people believe in. Our focus in Uganda right now are the 33 years of rule of President Museveni, and nothing is going to deter us from that. Because if you start talking of the LGBT community, then you are diverting us from the bigger cause. The LGBT community is not the problem of Uganda, no. The problem of Uganda is Museveni, that has been in power for 33 years, that has allowed corruption to go on for 33 years, that has allowed nepotism to go on for 33 years, that has completely turned the economy of Uganda into a total fail. So he's our biggest problem, not the rest of the minority groups.
Richard, Bobby Wine's engagement with the Western world and especially the African Americans, what does that tell you? Does that bring us closer as African Americans in America and Ugandans, or even African Americans elsewhere in the world? What does that tell you?
No, first of all, I'll go to the small analyzation of Okwaringa. I don't know who Okwaringa is, because Okwaringa is part of somewhere in the government that knows exactly what is happening. Their aim was to blackmail Bobby Wine that, look, you see, he's trying to go to the LGBT and get money out and make Uganda the same. So Okwaringa said in his sermon, said that, I think, where on all the award that he got and every presentation he made, where are these that we are trying to use? Because they are trying to use this to discredit Bobby Wine that is going to bring in gay rights into Uganda, and they are going to finance him. So that one has failed automatically. But on the other hand, Bobby Wine has achieved a lot, as you said, as she was saying. He has moved way further than us who have even been here, the engagement of people. Because as I told you, that for Uganda to get out of the mess that we are in, we must, my father used to tell me something when I was growing up, never make friendship with someone who is poor. He will make you poor. The more you make a friendship with someone who is rich, he will teach you the ways you make money. So for Bobby Wine to get a door, the door is open, even if African American in America is opening the door that will help Uganda. Remember that so many people in Uganda, 80% of the youth and everyone is unemployed. Even those that are employed, their earning is so little. For us to get out and get to a capital income in Uganda, because these people power will happen, like it has been in Bermuda. $60,000 per year for someone in Bermuda. The way they did it was to make friendship with America. Though Bermuda is a British territory, you must know that. Bermuda is a British territory. But for them to get to that level, they had to make friendship, trade, and investment from America. So Bobby Wine coming to America is an advantage. Every Ugandan should thank God or his God that Bobby Wine is there. All these doors are opened, and these people shall help us to move up from where we are to the next level, where even us. Because I was asking someone from Bermuda again, do you need a visa to come to America? No, he just comes with his passport. So that will come the same as Uganda. Ugandans, that they do not need a visa to come to America. They will just be coming because they are having enough income. But this will come because, remember, America is a big market for sub-manufacturing. We have the raw materials which Chinese people are taking to China. so much manipulation of our resources, paying cheap and take them, then we bring back finished good. What we are going to do, what we shall advocate when people get to government is how do we sub-manufacture to bring goods that have been sub-manufactured from Uganda to the market of what? Of America, where Ugandan economy will get out so quick out of where it is. In just 1 or 2 years, we shall be out of this problem. So, I totally thank Honorable Chapman to have accepted to be part of the groups that and the camp of the American people. And I thank him for that. And I think everyone should thank him for that. Instead of coming up with these stories, LGBT. Who told you to go there? You don't go there.
All right.
No, and again, to add on something really small on that, because we should not undermine the 2021 election, and I've said it a number of times, it's going to be the most expensive campaign Museveni has ever run. When you see 90 billions being printed and the story just disappears like that, where is the 90 billion? We do not know who is having it right now. We do not know. It has never been paraded anywhere. All what we had about was the 90 billion and that's it. So it is going to be the most expensive campaign Museveni has ever run. And definitely Bobi Wine cannot sit back. He has to make allies and friends who are going to help him finance the campaign. Either way, wherever the money comes from, so long as he has not stolen, it is the money we need, because we need to get, I'm telling you, by the time you run through all the districts, 52, I think there are more than that right now in Uganda, you need to have deeper pockets. You need to have deeper pockets. You need agents, you need people who are going to give in left and right. It is going to need deeper pockets for you to be able to do that. So we need all, and Museveni right now what he's doing, he's running to the Chinese, he's getting money, and Chinese are not giving free money. They're giving us money with Korato. If he's going to use the Chinese money to do campaigns, we do not know what he's giving the Chinese in exchange. Is he giving them the airport? Part we don't own it already. Is he selling off Uganda to the Chinese? We do not know that. But if friends and those who want to see human rights being installed in Uganda, who wants to change come in Uganda, are willing to contribute money and help the campaign of Bobi Wine, it doesn't matter whether they are LGBT, whether they are straight, whether they are what. All we need is to end the 33 years of President Museveni. We cannot have people diverting us and taking us on minor issues like LGBT community, like so and so. The next time they are going to bring sectors, or the Catholic Church in America is giving Bobi Wine money. Should that divert us from the bigger problem? So the LGBT is not the issue here. LGBT have been there, they are still there, they are not going to go away, so no one is going to divert us from the main cause of
all right, so I want to go a little bit, divert a little bit from the political realm, but again, we are going to be part of it. We want to look into how Uganda Cranes performed. A little bit, not just in the sports way, but the political way. These are guys who are carrying our flag elsewhere in the world. And the scandal we saw, they strike, at the end of the day, Uganda Cranes is out of the game because of the amount of money that was not paid to them on time, or even never was it paid to them. Guys, I want to ask you this question, because Sarah, actually, we talked about that and you followed up on the story. Let me start with Richard before I come to you, Sarah. Richard, when you heard about this scandal, that players were not paid at the level where they had entered into the last 16, and then they end up losing the game just because of the frustration, does that mean that the Uganda Federation or the FIFA system is working, or is it the government that is failing to implement its programs?
In Uganda, they do not consider, the government itself does not support all these things. Football, marathons. How many times, look at an example of the Boston Marathon every year here. I've never seen Ugandans compete. Do you think Ugandans don't have good runners to come to be sponsored? It's part of the way you advocate and lift up the face of a country. If the government in power cannot at least get resources, or someone's not making money, that's why the money was not released for that purpose, then I don't know what to say, because I'm not a fan of football. I cannot comment further on that. But so long as you cannot put in money in a place where you need, at least, look at how many times Kenya and Ethiopia are winning all these marathons in Boston. They are lifting up the image of a country, Uganda, Kenya. Where do you see Uganda? We were even lucky to reach out where we reached that far. So I'll leave it to my landy friend to do this.
Yeah, because 600 millions and they were not paid to these guys and they ended up striking. Many Ugandans are coming up to say...
And I'm glad Uganda Cranes did that. Because, I was reading a tweet from Honorable Dongo To, where he was saying, in fact he was asserting that the Uganda Cranes did wrong to strike. And then someone told him that you guys in Parliament are quick to increase your
salaries and allowances.
Your per diems, your salaries, and now you're questioning how the Uganda Cranes or players should operate and how they should do whatever they have to do. I'm glad they did that, because in Uganda doesn't respect talent, for starters. You've had so many talent in Uganda that has completely gone to waste. Look at this good sportsmen we had in Uganda. Look at the Chiprotich, look at all these other guys. Chiprotich is one of the guys he won Uganda medal that was last one in the 70s. But where's Chiprotich right now? He's either he's back in police. Chiprotich would have been elevated by government. Look at Nzikuru. They don't respect sportsmen. But look at Kenya. When you compare Uganda to Kenya in terms of sports are doing far, far better. Every time there's a huge sports tournament or athletics, Kenyans are always representing and they're winning big because they are very organized. So Uganda Cranes, I'm really kudos to them. They did what is right. When Museveni, when they needed 3 billion from Museveni, was it 3 billion, 32 billion? When they needed 32 billion from Museveni to be in Eastern Uganda for 2 weeks, that money appeared in no minute. Parliament approved it. So you want only a mere 600 million. Because if they had played before they got that money, they wouldn't have gotten the money. So kudos to Uganda Cranes. Whatever you did, at least you got your money. We should remember these people who have families, they have kids, they have relatives, they have people to take care of. And if we are not going to respect them, to always think about them last. And we think the most important things are the useless things like finding money when the president needs it, finding money when the MPs are increasing their salaries. I'm glad they had to strike. I saw a tweet again by Don Wanyama. He works in State House. And he was like, oh, if they don't want to play, carelessly like that, if they don't want to play, FIFA should write to CAF and pull out of the tournament. I'm like, find the money for these guys. Don't, carelessly. You're raising such issues because they've refused to play. And this money, they deserve it. This is their own money. They deserve to have it. So don't tell them what to do and you say, oh, we are going to pull out of the tournament if they fail to play. But when you need money for all these useless things, the money is always found. So I'm very glad and I'm happy for Uganda Cranes. Whatever you did your best. And it is very tough even to go far to where you reached in a country that does not respect talent, in a country that does not finance talent, in a country that always want to, appreciate and be part of those who have already won. You saw what happened with Miss Uganda. Miss Uganda had almost failed to travel because there was no ticket and there was no facilitation. After she became Miss Africa World, the president wanted to meet her, the Speaker of Parliament. I'm like, what is wrong with this country? They always like people who you struggle, and when you win now, they want to be part of you. In the part of struggling for you to be able to win, they don't want to be part of you. So kudos to Uganda Cranes. You did the right thing. Even next time, don't you ever play, don't train until when you're paid. Because if you had played, they wouldn't have paid you.
But this time, the president gave them the money. And it was FIFA that didn't give them the money. So I think President Museveni needs to be praised for the job well done, because he promised and the money was delivered. The unfortunate part was FIFA Federation or the leaders in FIFA failing to pay back the money. So do we again blame the government or we blame the federation?
It is a system, because if the system worked right, FIFA how many scandals has FIFA been involved in
the last 10 years, should I say?
Yeah, in money scandals, in money disappearing under the hands of FIFA officials. So if they received the money from the president and sat on it and they wanted these boys to play, and then afterwards, you know, the money disappears, no one wants to explain why it is, still, it is the entire system, because, you know, you cannot blame one thing and leave the other. Nothing in Uganda works. The entire system, whether you go to the sports sector, whether you go to the finance sector, whether you go to the IT, the whole system is so rotten and bad that everyone who is in there are so selfish. They think for themselves. They didn't think of the boys who play for 90 minutes in that field. They did not. They were playing from Egypt. Was it in Egypt?
Egypt, right.
Egypt is a very hot country. They did not think of these boys who are going to play out there in the sun for 90 minutes. They have to train. They have families. They have problems. So FIFA, if they received the money and they didn't want to give it out, they wanted to, you know, they wanted to start telling these boys stories after the game. So kudos to them for refusing to play. And after they got the allowance, whatever they did, that's how best they could go. Because, you know, you're playing among people who are training every time. You're playing among people who are very well facilitated. You're playing among nations, you know, some of these. And it's very tough because it's, you know, most of the FIFA players, the Uganda Cranes players, they're not playing in Uganda. All of them are playing international players. They're playing abroad. So even time to train as a team is really hard because they have their own teams that pays them, that are able to facilitate and make them, you know, earn some good money. So even enough, someone is not going to leave their team because it's not that they're not good players. But even good players have time to train among each other and know how they're going to coordinate the game, how are they going to move, who gives the pass where and here. But they have little time to train as a team, despite the fact that they're playing international, because the Uganda Cranes, you know, FIFA is not able to facilitate their training. So entirely, it is entire system. If they don't want to release money for the training of these players, it's entirely up to them.
All right, so that we'll leave it back to you, the viewers. If FIFA is doing its job to make sure that they promote the game, it's the responsibility of Ugandans to demand. One thing we do know that Ugandans are always interested in sports, but when you look at the federation that governs the sports industry, especially soccer or football, meandering around, that is a question that is left for all of you Ugandans from whichever part of the world you were to discuss and think about. So guys, I want to come back to you. That was just a side talk. A few weeks ago, we've been talking about UTL. And UTL still continues to appear in the news every now and then. And we're still arguing and asking ourselves why. Now, permanently, or now at least we have seen the president coming out to say, writing a letter to the Minister of Justice, Otafile, saying, now these issues, once the cabinet discusses on these issues, the cabinet's decision must be taken seriously. We have had legal zoom within this system between Anite and the administrative and whatever directors
and I saw also
and
UCC getting involved as well.
Right. So let me start with that before we conclude. Let me start with you, Sarah. Does this make any sense now that the president is coming in to say, hey guys, wait a minute. If the cabinet discussed on a certain issue, you must follow it. What does that tell you?
I'll say one thing. It's something to tell. It tells you one thing. You have people running institutions, but they are powerless. They are not decision makers. Basically, Museveni runs every institution in Uganda as a single-handedly. That's why he's wearing out very fast, because he makes decisions. When Museveni says this should be done, then it is done. Otherwise, they would have gone on bickering for months and months over something that does not really make sense. So Museveni makes the final say, and maybe since he has said, things may be able to move or work. But it is so sad for a country that has all those institutions, a country that has so many ministers on a payroll, so many RDCs, so many people that are consuming taxpayers' money. But at the end of the day, one man makes decisions. So the question is, why are we paying the rest? when it's one man making the decision. By the way, Museveni would have saved us taxpayers' money by, you know, by chasing off all the ministers, all the cabinet state ministers, chasing off all the RDCs and all the rest, and then he runs the show alone. It would have saved us, maybe would have given him respect for that, for saving us taxpayers' money, because if now it comes to him by making that decision, then it tells you one thing, system volongot.
All right, so I want to, Richard, before I come to you, this story has been limited by this one factor, that Uganda Telecom is monitored by the courts of law of Uganda, not by the minister, not by any other person, but it's still undergoing through the court process. But here's the problem that we read according to the Independent. It says, according to the late address to Minister of Finance, Byalhanga, says the administrator Bamanya Twebaze is only bound to make reports on progress of administration to the creditors of the company and furnish copies to court, the official receiver. Now, that's what is supposed to be done. They're supposed to tell the creditors and the court. Here's what Otafile sent to them, to the Registrar General, Uganda Registration Services Bureau. This is what he said. Number 3 of his points. You are required to continuously update me on the progress to enable me report to cabinet accordingly. Now, does that break the chain that has been governing Uganda Telecom now that Mr. Twebaze has to report to Otafile rather than reporting to creditors and courts? What does that tell you, Richard?
First of all, I'm old enough to have seen Uganda Post Office and telecommunication. Even when Mukasa, there was a managing director Mukasa way long ago, because we did evaluation on that building way long ago. But who sold it first and for what? Why did they sell such a company? To who and for what? Who are the beneficiaries of this? Is it Uganda? Where did the money go? How do you come out and sell an asset of a country the way it was? Because you people, I don't think you ever saw the Uganda telecommunication the way it used to. Every landline, every house at least had a landline in the country. The only problem was that they would come and take off your wire, and then you'd have to call them when you reach on the job, and then you have to pay them a certain amount, and they'll come back and put back your wire. But the country was running, but because of these tricks of Mr. Museveni, the way he played that, he's going to do what? Privatize every institution to make it more profitable so that government does not take responsibility of the breakdown of the company. It was a trick to steal from public assets to his friends. Who is benefiting from this? And what shall we do? Because it's too late. Someone's saying this because someone behind. If you see someone who is benefiting, who is behind this man, he said no one should interfere with this. Who is benefiting on this? It is people that have been appointed by the president and his group that are stealing from the country, that are benefiting. What we shall do as soon as the country is liberated, this shall be a no more play game. Out of office, back to where it belongs. Back to where it belongs. Uganda telecommunication shall go back where it's supposed to go, to the Ugandan people. Because what is going to happen in a new Uganda where someone is needing an ambulance and doesn't have resources, a 911 at least will be there free of charge to call. But if you are going to say that these people are benefiting, how many billions have they taken out of that company in those mess of corruption and stealing? So this nonsense is going to stop.
All right, this nonsense is going to stop. Guys, we can't go further from that. I've been told by my producers that we are running out of time. So that was very important because, you know, we have to talk about the Uganda Telecom. Every day we're having something new. The court is running. Now the president comes in and then the minister steps in. So that is left to you Ugandans to think about it and discuss and come up with what you really think is very important in regards to what's going on with Uganda Telecom. Remember, this is a national telecom. This is supposed to serve Ugandans at the cheapest price. Not like how much you charge to pay OTT and all that. That's the responsibility of the government to take care of people. Now, guys, I want to give you 1 second or two to draw your final conclusion, and then we will go off and the next show will be coming again, Love, Sex and Money. So, Richard, I want to start with you.
So, Ugandans that are watching us here tonight in this studio, I'm going to tell you, fellow Ugandans, you see our favorite, our comrade, our leader, they are working tirelessly. to see that we get out of the mess. But for me, as someone who's looking at, as a political analyst, that's why I'm here, I'm looking at the diaspora people and the people, because the people of Uganda are under bondage. But as people who are in the diaspora, we have to come together and have a Ugandan conference and produce a new blueprint for the country that we want Uganda to be, as a reference and a support to the people power movement. Uganda is not a free place where you can discuss issues as hot as that for the change of the country. My cry to you tonight, and whenever you are that you are listening to us and are watching that, even tomorrow and when, you should be ready to be able to participate in a conference where we shall discuss these issues in detail, that we produce a Uganda that we want to live in. That is my cry to you.
Sir?
Definitely, I want to thank everyone who has been viewing us and adding in their contributions on social media. But at the same time, I want to call upon everyone that has been in the struggle, all the activists. And my request to them is instead of fighting our fellow activists, let's, especially when they are down, it is about time to uplift, to add our voices, to demand for their freedom. I think we need to put in more energy and time in demanding for the freedom of Bajo. What Bajo said is what millions of Ugandans want to say, but they don't have the courage to say that. So that's what people say in the four, corners of their houses or their bedrooms. They say exactly what Bajo said out loud in camera, and it went viral. So let's advocate for the freedom of Bajo. And for those who have taken out time to start labeling him a mole, how he was paid money, please stop. Let's bring up all that when Bajo has his freedom. We can ask him all those questions. There is nothing as bad as beating someone who is already down, especially someone who has been largely involved in fighting for the freedom back home, fighting for change, and he has put in his time. No, not many Ugandans are doing that back home. Basically, when you look at back home, very normal Ugandans who are not politicians, because sometimes I used to ask myself, what does Bajo want from this? He's not a politician. He's not vying for any political seat. But there are so many Ugandans, they want to see change. So when we see someone like him coming up to, let's not beat them when they're down. This is a time when they need every advocate, every activist on their side. So let's devise means, let's support them. Let whoever goes to visit him in prison, let him tell him, the world is with you. The Ugandans are with you. It is very tough to hear information, oh, this camp is fighting you, the other camp is fighting you. The same thing to Nyanzi. Whatever Nyanzi did nothing wrong. It was just a poem. There was nothing wrong. There is nothing he said that wasn't true. But it's because, we live in a system that doesn't want to hear the truth. So, but she's almost making a year plus in prison. And she has kids. They need to see their mom. They need to go to school. So, and, let's fight for their rights. Let's demand for their freedom. And let's continue and pay attention to the cause. Let's take away our time from all the issues that are diverging us from what we want. We want to see change come to Uganda. I want to end the 33 rule of President Museveni. We cannot spend time, beating each other, fighting each other, calling each other mole, calling each other you are paid by government, this and that. It does not take us far. In fact, when I think Museveni sees all this, he enjoys it, because you're failing to focus on what you're supposed to do to bring about change in Uganda, and you're putting a lot of time in non-issues.
All right. In my closing take, normally we always come up with something. But as I close, first I want to thank all of you who have been watching the show and who have sent in your comments. We have received them and we take them seriously. Now, last week, as I close, Dr. Jose Chameleone joined officially the politics of Uganda by joining DP. It was his choice, and we believe that it's going to be a big block on the political change or the political transformation in Uganda. Now, that is very important. The question is, to you who has been watching, what do you learn when you see fellow musicians, if you're a musician? What do you learn if you see fellow doctors, if you're a doctor? What do you learn if you're a politician, Every day when you see everyone coming to join forces to see that they can work to transform Uganda. Our responsibility is to see a better Uganda for us today and the future generation. Have a good week. I'll see you next week, same time here in our CFTV Boston studios. And those who are watching us on Live MTV Live, thank you. Continue doing that. We love you. Have a good week. Let's enjoy the politics of the country. Bye.